Have you ever been completely right about something and lost anyway? Not lost the argument, won it, and still walked away from the whole thing with less than you started with. There was a man in a hillside town who fought his neighbor over 11 feet of ground. He had the deed. He had the plan. Every single person who ever looked at the evidence agreed with him, and it took him 9 years to prove it, and he proved it. And when he came home with the paper in his hand, his daughter asked him a question 6 words long, and he had no answer to it at all. My name is Second Wind. Today we're going to explore a story about a man who spent 9 years being right about something, what that rightness quietly took from him while he was busy proving it, and the one question that ended it in a single afternoon. So, let's begin. The town of Merrow sits on a hillside, and the houses there are built in terraces with narrow strips of land behind them, and there has never been a year in that town without an argument about a boundary. Aldo Wren was a stonemason, 44 years old, and the strip behind his house ran up to a low wall that his grandfather had built. In the spring of that year, his neighbor Corvin Saul took that wall down and rebuilt it 11 feet further over. Aldo went round the same afternoon. "You've moved the wall." "I've put it back where it was." "It was not there. It was 11 feet that way. My grandfather built it." And Corvin said, "Your grandfather built it wrong." That was the whole of the first conversation, and I want you to notice how small it was. Aldo had the deed. It was in a box in his house, and it had been there since 1911, and it showed the boundary exactly where he said it was. He was right. I want to say that plainly now, because nothing that follows makes sense otherwise. He was right on the first day, and he was right on the last, and he never stopped being right for a single day in between. The first thing it cost him was the summer. He spent it walking the strip with a rule and a notebook. He measured everything twice. He drew it out on paper. He went to the town clerk and had the old plan copied, and the copy agreed with him, and he brought it home and put it in the box with the deed and felt, for about a day, very good. Corvin did not accept the copy. Corvin said copies could be made to say anything. So Aldo wrote to the county office for the original. That took 4 months. The second thing it cost him was Corvin. They had been neighbors 19 years. Corvin had helped him roof the back of the house. Aldo had built Corvin's steps for nothing when his knee went. In 19 years, they had never had a cross word. By the second winter, they were not speaking at all, and when they passed on the lane, they both looked at the ground. Aldo's wife, Marta, said one evening, "You know he's not going to give it back." "He will when he sees the original." "And if he doesn't," Aldo said, "then he's a thief and everyone will know it." Marta did not say anything else. The third thing it cost him was money. The original could not be sent. It had to be viewed. That meant 2 days of travel and a fee, and a solicitor to write the letter that followed, and the letter cost more than the fee, and Corvin's answering letter cost Corvin the same, and neither letter changed anything at all. By the 4th year, Aldo had spent enough on that 11 feet to have bought a good deal more than 11 feet somewhere else. He knew that. He said it out loud once to Marta, and then said, "That's not the point." The fourth thing it cost him was the work. He was a good mason, and he had been busy his whole life. But a man who is fighting his neighbor is a man people talk about. And Merrow was not a big town, and slowly the jobs came from further away, and then from further away than that. Nobody said why. Nobody ever does. The fifth thing it cost him was his hands. He was 50 by then, and he had started waking at 4 in the morning to write letters, and he wrote them standing at the kitchen table because his back had gone, and he would still be there when Marta came down. She stopped asking about it. That was the year she stopped asking. Now, here's the part I actually wanted to tell you. In the 9th year, Aldo won. The county produced the original plan. It was unambiguous. The boundary was where his grandfather had put it, and where Aldo had said it was for 9 years, and the clerk wrote it down, and it was over, and he had been right the entire time. He came home with the paper in his coat. His daughter Nessa was 18 then. She had been 9 when it started. She was sitting at the kitchen table, and she looked up when he came in, and she said, "Did you get it?" And he said yes. And she said, not unkindly, just curious, the way you ask about the weather, "What are you going to do with it?" Aldo stood in his own kitchen with the paper in his hand, because he had never once thought about that. Not in 9 years. He had thought about the deed and the copy and the county office and the solicitor and what Corvin had said in the lane in the second winter. He had thought about being right approximately every day. He had never thought about the 11 feet. It was a strip of rough ground behind a house on a hillside. Nothing grew on it. He had no use for it and never had. He could not have told you what he would have done with it in 1911 or in any year since. And Nessa said, because she was 18 and had not been there for the beginning and did not know she was saying anything difficult. "You could have just let him have it." He said, "But I was right." And she said, "I know." Aldo Ren sat down in his own kitchen at 53 years old and did the arithmetic. 9 summers, a friendship of 19 years, more money than the land was worth several times over. His trade, thinned out to almost nothing. His back, 4 in the morning at the kitchen table, and a wife who had stopped asking, against one thing. He had been proved right. That was the whole of what he had bought. That was the entire return on 9 years. And it was not nothing, because being right does matter. But it was one small thing, and he had paid for it with everything else he had. He walked round to Corvin's the following week, which was the hardest thing he ever did. And he did not apologize, because he had nothing to apologize for. He just said, "Keep it." Corvin said, "What?" "Keep it. I don't want it." And Corvin stood in his doorway and did not know what to do with his face, and then he said, "I know it was yours." And Aldo said, "I know you know." They did not become friends again. 9 years is 9 years. But they spoke, after that, in the lane. And by the end of Aldo's life, Corvin was one of the 6 men who carried him. So let me ask you something. What are you currently in the middle of? Not a small disagreement. The long one. The one you have been carrying for months or years, where you are right, and you know you are right, and the other person will not admit it. And be honest. What has it already cost you? Count it properly. The sleep, the hours, the people who stopped calling, the version of you that used to be easier to be around. Here's the one thing you can do with this. The next time you sit down to continue it, the email, the message, the conversation you rehearse in the car, stop and ask one question first. What am I actually protecting here? Sometimes the answer is real. Sometimes there is money on the table, or a child, or your safety, and you should absolutely keep going. But sometimes you will sit there and the honest answer will be, I am protecting the fact that I am right. And if that is the answer, then walk. Not because you are wrong, you are not wrong, but because you now know exactly what you are buying and exactly what it costs. Because when you walk away, you lose one thing and one thing only. You lose the chance to be proved right. That is the entire price, and it is almost always smaller than what you are paying now. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who may need to hear it, and subscribe to Second Wind Tales for more meaningful stories about hope, courage, and personal growth. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.